What's going on, everybody? Mr. Inglorious here, and today we're going to do a little bit different type of video, more of a review and a recommendation for Deadside. I want to structure this video into three main topics. First is going to be what's new in Deadside, second is going to be what I like in Deadside, and third is going to be what I want to see Deadside do and where I want to see the game go. So first we can get into what's new, and I think the biggest thing that's new in Deadside is the integration of easy anti-cheat. We see this a lot in Unreal games, and this is huge. I personally haven't run into any cheaters, but I know watching streams and hearing from other gamers that there's been a few hackers. So if we can limit that right off the bat, that's going to be great. Bad Pixel also put out a few other updates, and they've been very good about putting updates out on a pretty regular basis. I mean, the game's only been out for a few weeks, and I think they've updated it over 4 or 5 times. Some other changes they added with the anti-cheat patch is some bounds and blockers. Those are corrected. Just minor issues like where your head geometry can get stuck through a base. You can end up leaping inside somebody's base. That's going to be changed. They disabled the automatic restart for private servers, and they removed regions from the server browser. But you can also now see the total amount of online servers. This update came, I believe, on Wednesday. As of today, Bad Pixel tweeted about future updates in Deadside, saying that now that the anti-cheat is solved, they can focus more on gameplay updates. And they give a sense of what's to come. So obviously there's going to be more bug fixes and optimization. And right now they're actually working on the fix for the ability to duplicate items and optimizing storage system in the green zones, significantly improve the server performance. In addition to that, they're developing the new network mechanism that should allow the increased number of players on the server and implement game features such as vehicles. I don't think vehicles are going to come until the map is larger, and they actually do hint on that in their tweet today. They're planning on new firearms and equipment models, and you'll see a new vest with different inventory slots, a few new assault rifles, machine guns, and even grenade launchers, which is pretty cool. New visual content. They're improving the diversity of the existing villages, and they're planning to add entirely new content with industrial areas and underground bunkers. And in order to add new points of interest, the size of the map will be expanded soon. They don't say when. They add more game events, or at least they plan to. There'll be plenty of new missions with new rewards, helicopters, crash sites, and airdrops. So they say these are going to be cargo containers that drop in the random places on the map. There's going to be more base interaction. They say this regarding base interaction. We are aware of the problems with managing the base, and while you're in squad and we're looking into different options of how to solve it, it might be code locks, or perhaps we'll decide to use another system. So where they decide to go with that is in the works. These are what Bad Pixel considers high priority tasks, and they're going to work on these first, and then they're going to work on more of a long-term tasks. And the long-term are going to be the vehicles, which I talked about earlier, the map size, base raids are going to allow raiding, but they're going to do the system so that you can be raided while you're playing, not so much just sitting offline, and the next thing you know, you come back onto the game and then your base has been raided. I think they're going to work on some sort of lockpick mechanism, or I've heard about if you die, much like the scavs drop dog tags, a player will drop a key. It might not say where they have a base and the key is for, but if a player is randomly walking behind a base, they have somebody's key in their pocket and they walk up, they could potentially open it because that is the key for that specific base. Now, those are the updates that Bad Pixel has hinted at and they've talked about publicly. I'd like to skip this over to what I like about the game, and then we'll get into where I'd like to see the game go. Now, these are just my opinions. You may differ. If you have differing opinions or you agree, let me know in the comments. I mean, this is the discussion that I like to have as a community. So what I like about Deadside so far is the progress that they've made so early on. The game plays really well. They've had a few issues, but they've been pretty good at getting those fixed. I know that early on there were some lag issues and it seemed like people had God mode on, they wouldn't take damage, but it really was just the server connection. The overall environment and the way the terrain looks is fantastic. I find myself playing the game and just stopping and looking over the hills down at the water, or swooping the third person camera around to just get screenshots, because the screenshots in these games are amazing. They can make good desktop backgrounds or anything like that. The God rays that come through the trees when you're running into the sun, everything like that, fantastic. I know that's part of Unreal Engine, but the game, it gives that extra element of environment. I really do like that. This next one is huge, and it's the voice over IP. Just walking up to somebody and talking in the game and either saying, let's join up or be a squad, or trash talking before you get into that fight. It's so immersive, in my opinion. You meet people, they talk about what they just did. You can even share loot. I've seen where people have been completely naked and some squad of totally geared guys comes up and they see them, and instead of just killing them on sight, which obviously the game is, you can do that, there's nothing wrong with that, instead of killing them on sight, somebody's like, I got this AK and I have some Gorka pants in my bag that I don't really need, and maybe I'll find something better in the long run that I can sell for more money. They just give that to a person who just spawned in, and yeah, that's great. They can be on their merry way after that, or they can team up, or then 5 minutes down the road, they might end up having a gunfight. It allows for a lot of different outcomes, and that's something that you don't see in games like Escape from Tarkov. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to get that, but Bad Pixel has done us all favors by integrating the VoIP. Now, I'd like to see Deadside go in a direction that will allow for expansion for years to come. The map obviously is at a smaller scale right now. You can see in the map that there's a lot larger terrain to be explored once the game releases, or once they release portions of the map. But I think the potential is to keep adding. Obviously, they could add islands, they could add boats, they could add planes to take you to different areas. But something like that would be an element that keeps players in the game. It won't die off after a while. I'd like to see prone. There's so many times where you're in a gunfight and you can crouch behind a tree, but the prone would just give you so much better gun control. You'd get a better vantage point. You could scope out an area laying on the ground before you enter without being seen, instead of just standing there crouched in the middle of a field. I'd like to see servers have multiple missions going on at the same time. I know that some have increased missions and some don't really have any missions. I like a balance between the amount of missions. Some are in the north area, and then 20 minutes later, after that one ends, you might see one in the south. But a more frequent basis for missions would be nice. I know that Deadside plans to have new and increased points of interest, but this is something that I believe needs to come sooner rather than later. There's looting areas, but they don't have much there. But if you can increase the amount of buildings in the major cities and add more compounds throughout the map, even now that the map's so small, I still think the distance between the cities is a little bit too long, and there's only so many that you are going to run into somebody right off the bat, which isn't bad. But if you're looting, just spawning in, it might be better to explore a little bit, get a nice kit, and then figure out what you're going to do. The loot system, it's pretty good now. I'd like to see it changed a little bit. Just easier UI. I mean, maybe a quick equip. I know there's a take all button, that's great, but a quick equip, like here's a helmet, put it in my slot so you don't have to drag it over, or here is ammo, put it in my vest. Here's a gun, put it in my gun slot. Just the dragging is a little bit iffy right now, I guess you could say. And more often times than not, I try to drag something over and it just won't go. So I have to do it 2-3 times. And it would save a lot of time if the loot system was revamped. Auto stack would be good too. Like when you pick something up off the ground, if there's the ability to stack an item, if it would just went onto that item, that would be good. The rags that you tear up, I think it would be beneficial if different types of clothing or items tore up into different amount of rags. I know that you get 2 per clothing item now, but if you could do a face mask, you can't tear up face masks or hats. If you could tear up face masks and hats and they became one, I mean, just any extra item that you could tear up in a pinch in a gunfight to give you that extra rag might help save your life. Another thing that could be worked on is the shadows. It's kind of comical actually, but if you're running down the road, at least now, your body shadow is blurry. It looks more distant. And then the guns on your back or the guns in your hand are super solid. They are so pronounced that, I mean, sometimes they're even just that shadow. There's no body shadow. I think the shadows need to be worked on a little bit. But the shadows in the the actual environment themselves are very good. So this is just a player-based shadow. Otherwise, the game is right where it should be, in my opinion, after such an early launch. I mean, this is early access. We're playing an early access game. There's no perfection expected at this point. And I think Bad Pixel has done a great job of getting as close as they can so early on. Anyway, that's how I feel about Deadside. That's what I like, what they're doing, and where I'd like to see it go. I don't normally do videos like this, but if you'd like to see videos with more reviews, let me know in the comments. If you do like the content, please hit that subscribe button and come back for more videos. I have a weekly series called Once Upon a Time in Deadside where it highlights gameplay, interactions, and other footage from Deadside. You can catch my live streams on Twitch. The link will be in the description below. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you in the next video.